Hello all, this is Alex Krems with Just One Dime. I'm a coach and I want to welcome you all today. The topic is sourcing tips. Go ahead and type in the chat box if you can hear, if the audio is okay, and go ahead and let me know where you're from. A little bit jumping in here. I'm going to jump right in. Go ahead and let me know if you can hear me. And I'm going to jump right in here, share my screen, share. Let's get to full screen. Good. We've got someone from Brisbane, Australia. We've got somebody from Maryland. Excellent. So it looks like we're all hooked up. Let's get the screen share set up for the presentation. And we'll jump in here. Share screen, and we are on. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen here, just to make sure that we're all set up. And today we're going over sourcing tips. Alibaba, what you should know. Import Genius, this is a new way for you to check out how to find products. Trade fairs, important questions to ask any factory. Factory visits, component suppliers, trade associations, blogs, Google, and YouTube. The next section is I title Protect Yourself, and I'll show you some documents that can help you do that. Good. More folks are joining. Welcome. Let me bring back my screen here. Stop sharing. Good. Here I am. Okay. So the main element that I want to get across here is right now people are looking for product, or they will be soon. And the main thing that I find in sourcing, let's assume for a moment that you're going to be able to find the factory that you want. So second thing is we're going to look beyond just finding that factory. The most important thing in my mind is to get the right price. So if you find yourself caught without the right price and you're too expensive, you're really in a bad spot. And I'll illustrate this point. Last week, I was at one of the Hong Kong trade fairs. I'm in Hong Kong right now. I live in Hong Kong. I was at one of the fairs, and I'm sourcing for a product that I want to add to my private label Amazon store. So I did my homework beforehand, and I'm going around the trade fair, and I see a booth for a company that is ranked, of my top competitors, is ranked probably number 2. So they are moving, by our criteria, they're moving this particular category. These folks were moving about 50 units a day. So they're moving. And good turnover, good profit. So I just kind of rolled right by, had my trolley, rolled right by. I'm like, I'm not going to talk to them. And then I thought, wait a minute, maybe I'll learn something. So I turned around, I went in, and I introduced myself, and I said, hello, I'm Alex Krems, and I do the US market. I didn't say I was doing anything on Amazon. I wasn't, if he would have asked, I might have told him, but I didn't say anything about it. I said, I'm interested in this product, and I pointed to it, and I said, I do the U.S. market. Is this product available? Just kind of play dumb. And he says, yeah, it's doing really well, but only on Amazon. Are there, can you be a distributor? And I was like, sure. So he gives me a catalog, and I'm looking at it, and we talk for a little while. And then I say, how much does it cost? At the end of the conversation, he tells me 5.8. So I write down 5.8. And I try to hide the jaw drop that I was feeling, because that was the best price I had heard ever. So the other prices that I've been getting were around $10, $9 at the best. So then I keep walking. I go to the next booth, next trade fair, next booths in that trade fair, and I ask for the pricing for similar product, and they keep saying this number of $9, $10. And so I said, well, do you know this other company? And that was where I just been. I took out their catalog and I showed it to them, and I said, these guys just gave me 5.8. And those factories, I was getting now pricing down to around 7. Still, it's not 5.8. You can be sure that I'm going to order that guy's sample and take it apart and look at it and see how he's doing it. What does that tell me? I mean, he's quoting me a price that he's making money on. So that means the price is somewhere below 5.8. These guys that are the other factories are doing really well. So anyway, I tell you that little anecdote to kick off our workshop here, because being a buyer, you never want to get caught out on price. Prior to seeing that factory, I almost didn't talk to them, because I was thinking, oh, they're the top competitor. They don't want to talk to me. I'm just a smaller Amazon seller compared to him. He's killing it on this product. But then I was like, I should do some research. So that's what I really want to get across today, is this is about market intelligence. And so let's jump in here and share my screen again and jump into this presentation. Okay, here we are. I can't tell if that's a full screen or not, but I will assume that it is, unless somebody chats that it's not. So, next screen. Not going to the next screen. Okay, I'll switch it around. I'm back. Let me switch it around for sharing. And we'll go for this way. Share. Present. Full screen. Okay, there we are. Now we're back on. So, where I pick up here is Alibaba. This is a relatively safe method and is our preferred method, especially if you're new, because it has trade assurance. Trade assurance is really a big advantage when sourcing. They have the power and the leverage, Alibaba does, to enforce shipment, enforce certain levels of quality. Keep in mind that trade assurance is, if you have been very clear about what you're buying and you have followed all the steps, you've done an inspection, this is preventing somebody from not shipping you the goods but taking your money, and or for somebody shipping the wrong product, putting a box of rocks in the products. Of course, that doesn't happen. But shipping bad product to you, you can prove it on the other side. You have to show it. These types of things can be worked out via Alibaba Trade Assurance. So it's a very good platform. It's also super convenient. It's a one-stop shop. And most of the Alibaba vendors can handle small MOQs, and they have experience with Amazon sellers. However, if this is your first time buying in Asia, you really want to be staying on Alibaba. It's going to save you time. If you have some experience buying in Asia and you're ready to take the next steps, consider what I'm going to share with you now. You ought to get intel first on where your competitors are building their product. You need to know where they build and roughly how much they are paying so that you won't be surprised on price. So the first point I want to show you is called Import Genius. You can go to the website, www.importgenius.com. This is not something that I don't work for Import Genius. In fact, my account right now, I don't have a paid account right now. It is rather expensive, but what I'm going to show you today is not using the paid account. Of course, if you do pay for the account, you can get all the information. What Import Genius is they are a database for all customs documents for imports into the US. All the import documents, which includes the invoice, the bill of lading, sometimes the packing list, are public, the bill of lading especially. And you will be able to see on their documentation where they're buying from. So Import Genius allows you to search for those. It is not 100% perfect to find because many shippers know how to hide where they're shipping from, and I'll show you why and how. So I'll show you a snapshot, screen by screen. So here we are. So you go to Import Genius. There's a screen here, instant search. You go ahead and type in whatever you want to search. I'm using as an example, Colgate. I want to know where Colgate makes their product. You can see I found 39 results. What came up was a series of results, and you can see the importer is Colgate-Palmolive. So that's the company in the United States that's receiving the goods. The supplier is Colgate-Palmolive. And this is toothbrushes, and that's what I was looking for. The thing to know here is that big suppliers, big buyers, big brands, they know that this is public information. So they don't put, what they do is they use their Asia company as the supplier. So Colgate-Palmolive has their own China or Hong Kong company, and they actually do their own, they switch the documents. So the forwarder will take the factory's name off it and they'll add their name on it. So we won't know. But, and this is the key here, many companies are not savvy about this, or they pay attention most of the time, but once in a while they forget, or they do a different procedure and they didn't follow, and you'll be able to track where their supplier is. So we'll step into another search. Here is a product that I had looked into to sell on Amazon for a little while, got out of it for, because this is the dominant company. There's only one dominant company. I don't want to be playing against the one dominant company. And it's a good business. These guys, they're called Verilux. So I simply added into the Import Genius, and I came up with several suppliers. This one you can see here is called Shaoxing Pu'er Electrical. So, and you can see desk lamp spare parts. So they must do desk lamps as well. So I just went to Google. I entered in that company name. Sure enough, they're making desk lamps. So there I can find this, and I can just go to contact and start contacting this company. I can't tell you how many times I've done this. It works again, it doesn't work all the time, but it works for mid-level and small-level companies a lot. Here's another one, some biodegradable cutlery, plastic cutlery. The company name was Greenworks. So here's their Amazon store. You can see it's a nice storefront. So I type in Greenworks into the United States database on Import Genius, and I get Zhejiang Huaju Greenworks. Fork, plastic spoons. It probably seems logical that would be it. And I can look at the bill of lading. Now, if I have the paid version, I can see a lot more information, but I don't. So I just use what I've got, and in some ways it's good enough. And here I've got Zhejiang Huaju Greenworks as the factory. You can see they've got down here at the bottom fork, spoon, knife, and type in Zhejiang Huaju Greenworks, and I find the company. These companies have websites. It makes it easy. Sometimes you have to start looking on other financial records, different ways of searching to find to track them down, but very, very possible. You can get into D&B, Dun and Bradstreet. That can help you find. There's many different ways to find. So jumping back to our next option. So that's Import Genius. Trade fairs are a really important way to find products. Now, the pros are, it really is one of the best methods to source. It's quick. You can usually get everything done in about 4 days. There's plenty of customers around, so you can do a little bit of scoping out what they might be looking for. If you happen to meet them in a coffee shop or see their badge and hear them talking, you might see where they're from. And of course, you can build relationships with suppliers. The cons, of course, is it's really expensive to fly and get there. Most trade fairs do not have a fee. So as long as you register in advance, you can get in. Another con is that not all suppliers go. So you could get a little bit of a skewed view depending on the category. Some suggestions for trade fairs. The Canton Fair, this is really one of the more international fairs. It's every October and every April. They have it in 3 phases, 1 week each. Factories from all over China come to the Canton Fair. Historically, it's been in existence for a very long time, maybe as many as 100 years. Then we also have, in Hong Kong, we have what's known as the HKTDC, which is Hong Kong Trade Development Council, and Global Sources. These two are excellent fairs. They run many different categories: electronics, lighting, housewares, many different kinds, and it's all on their websites. Of course, you can go to other specialized fairs all over China. I encourage you to look around, ask factories, ask trade associations. Some are really good, some are not great. I'll tell you when I say not great, I did one in 2 years ago in Atlantic City. It was in the States. And it was for an organization called PPAI, which is Promotional Products Association. I don't know what I was. And they had restricted entry. You had to show proof of purchase and all kinds of crazy stuff. Anyway, I actually did look. I finally found some of their vendors in their database. I spammed a bunch of emails, and I asked one guy to meet me in the coffee shop, and he swapped me his badge so I could go in for a short time. But anyway, the point being, check out in advance before you're flying. I spent money on that trip. It wasn't that far because I was already in the States, but it would have been a bust had I not been able to find that guy who let me in. So some good points to be aware of. Book the trade fair in advance. They all have online booking. Get a comfortable hotel nearby. Traffic can really be a headache in some of these cities. Book way in advance if possible, because it gets really expensive if you wait. Print a business card. It's a good idea to put purchasing director or buyer on your business card. Think about a story. You want to have something that is like an elevator pitch, we say. 30 seconds. Who are you? Where are you from? What are you looking for? So I've found that telling which market you're in. So for example, say I handle the USA market, and I'm primarily selling on Amazon. That seems to garner a lot of interest from factories. They're cool with that, and they really want to work with you. You can also tell them you're a buyer for another company. You don't want to say you're a buyer for Amazon. I actually did have several factories ask me that. And I said, no, I'm not a buyer for Amazon. But you can come up with a good story so that they really are hungry to give you information. Be very confident about that. Find a specific product that you want. Go stand in front of it, point at it, give them a business card, ask them for the catalog, express a lot of interest. Then you can start having a conversation. I'll stop sharing here, come back to my screen. I want to show you. Okay, I'm back. So, for example, I have tons of catalogs. So you just grab the catalog, then pick the product, start asking for the prices. Really, I get right into it. I don't really have time to chat too long with these guys. Another thing that is a good resource, the fairs all have these books. You won't see people picking them up very often, which is a shame. They are big, heavy things, so pick them up at the end, not at the beginning. But something I want to show you, which is useful, is they have, it'll be hard to see, but they have this listed by product. So you can actually, this is the electronics one. So I'm looking here, home theater equipment. There's got to be 50 entries here. So probably can't see it very well, but home theater, it's backwards on the camera. Home theater equipment, you can see all those factories. Then in these show guides, they have all the company contacts and their booth number. So if for whatever reason you miss, or let's say you didn't know that you were going to be looking for home theater equipment, you were looking for something entirely different. After the fair, you've got all the categories, and you can just go back and say, okay, yeah, I want that. And then you can start sourcing. This is overlooked. I find a lot of people never notice that. Okay, important questions to ask. Just getting this up. Apologies. Got to get that up there. Hide. There we go. There it is. Okay, excuse me. Thank you. So, important questions to ask. Really, I see a lot of people on our Facebook group that aren't saying this and aren't asking this. I saw a couple last week. Just breaks my heart that they don't know. Just ask, are you selling on Amazon? Really, most factories are going to tell you right out of the gate. I also ask them, do you plan to sell on Amazon? And then I say, is this product available for my market? I might start with, is this product available for my market? Because they might be selling it. Maybe they're not selling it to Amazon US. Maybe they're selling it to. I talked to one company last week. They were doing a medical product, and they were not selling on Amazon, but turned out they were selling at CVS. Well, that's an important thing to know because CVS is a really big drugstore in the United States. And they do sell online. So that would be a competition against Amazon and might make things difficult. So after you select a product that you usually see a product that catches your eye, you might ask, what products are really hot? Sometimes what you think may be different from what they're experiencing. And I found a lot of good stuff just by seeing a factory I like, finding a product I like, and then what I picked maybe wasn't the most popular. And I just say, hey, what's hot? And they'll just be like, oh, this one's selling all. And maybe there's too much competition, but you need to know what it is, and they'll clue you in quickly. I always tell them I have a plan to sell it on Amazon. And I let them know that I don't argue about the market at that point, but I let them know I'd prefer that it would be only for me. Of course, they get in discussion of exclusive and how much quantity, and there's a lot of things there. Try to get preliminary pricing and as much information on the product as you can. After you leave, I mean, these questions, if you're not at a trade fair, these questions are relevant. You should be asking some of these questions when you're communicating with people on Alibaba or other ways that you may have contacted suppliers. Of course, there's many more questions than this, but I'm trying to stay with this notion that we want to know who is selling on Amazon so we don't double up on the same products if we can help it. If the specs and the price are right, it is a good idea to ask a factory to sign an NDA and or a distribution agreement to sign the product and your differentiation to your company. So what does that mean and what does that look like? Let me show you. So a NDA, if you're not aware of this, this is very basic agreement. This is not something that is long. I used to do very long ones with some big companies in Japan and the United States. This is honestly, this is a 2.5 page agreement. It's three, and it's really basic. But what it basically says is, anything I'm giving you is mine. Anything you give me is yours. And if we don't do business together, we have to give that information back. So your differentiation would be part of that. Secondly, I also do something a bit different. Again, this is my method, and I have found it to be useful. I just do a very simple letter. I mean, it's really one page, right? And essentially what it says, I asked the factory to put it on their letterhead. So please add your manufacturer, company name, address, and logo. So you have them put it on here at the top and then send you the letter with their signature. Okay, and basically what it's saying is it's regarding exclusive authorization to distribute in the US market to Amazon. So this is saying, and I fill in the product that I'm buying. So it's saying that you are the authorized distributor, you're exclusive for the United States, for Amazon. And I add in, they must pay, if for whatever reason they break this agreement, then that factory should pay me a 10% commission. I've never had that happen, but it's good to have this as kind of hanging over their head. It also shows them that you're serious. It's not likely that this is going to be enforceable in a court in China, but it is showing some type of assignment of the product to you. And it could be used in a court. Okay, moving along. Let's make sure we're still on here. Good, we'll come back to these questions. So, factory visits. This is another fantastic, if you're at the trade fairs, you can usually go to see the factories in the same trip. So this is a great place to collect information on the product, how it's built, how it can be differentiated, how to improve quality. All these things you'll learn when you're on the floor in the factory. It, of course, helps you develop and improve relationships, and they love visitors. Plan for a meeting at the factory. You can do 1 or 2 factories per day. My record is 5 factories in one day, but that's really painful and lucky. Really, if you can do 1 or 2, that's great. Plan for dinner with the boss. Don't be lazy and go to the hotel at the end of the day and look at your iPhone. Go to dinner with them if they offer, and usually they will offer. It's the best time to have a little sidebar with the factory and say, hey, who else are you doing business with? And get information about who they are. I like to say, so this is really important to get the competitor intelligence. Do your homework in advance. Try to find out, asking, have them fill out a little form and ask who their customers are. You can say, you can ask them leading questions like, who is the most dominant brand in your category? These things you probably need to know, but if you can find out in advance, it's better. And then when you're at the factory at the meeting, say, okay, I think you're doing business, and you can even guess. Sometimes I just guess and ask a leading question. I heard you're doing business with Colgate. They'll say, no, that's not true. We do business with Crest. Who knows? But sometimes you open it up that way. Look in the engineering rooms, look on the production line, look in their warehouse, because they usually love to walk you around, and you may not ask the question when you're sitting in front of that product, but you might ask later. So, and again, don't be afraid to ask. Usually they'll start talking eventually. Of course, you don't want them to be so open because they're going to be open with your information. But, they might say, oh, we have an NDA. Okay, honor that. But still, after dinner, try and get more information. Again, don't give up. Also, you can ask about their competitor factory. I like to say that. I went to so-and-so company because they're usually all in the same area. And what do you think about them? Are they good? Do they make good product? How's their quality? You can just lead them on that. Next subject, component suppliers. This could be a bit more difficult, but this can yield some really good information. How? For example, Bluetooth headphones. They have a Bluetooth chip in it. These are very common products. Inside, they have a Bluetooth IC chip. one's called CRS, MTK, there's a couple of different ones, 4 or 5. They'll usually be quoting one or the other. So I've done this countless times. I've Googled the chip company. I found distributors who distribute that chip in the region I'm trying to buy, and I go see the distributors. The distributors will recommend to me their biggest factories. So again, then I just Google those factories, check on different websites, and I find out who these factories are. This is one of the best ways to get to the biggest factory. And you want to be getting to the big factories. You might be able to meet the component factories as well. Even that your factory might take you to the component factories. And at the end of the day, this is a very good way to find sources. Another good way is trade associations. Almost every product category has a trade association. Try Googling the product. I bet you can learn a lot about who the major players are in the industry in terms of the factories. If you crawl down the pipe of those trade associations, they're usually the top 20 are usually part of that trade association. I'll give you an example. I had a friend trying to find insoles, orthotic insoles. Honestly, I had no idea where I was going to find these factories. I looked on Alibaba, but I only got people just kind of offering small amounts, and I couldn't find the heart of the industry. So that's when I went after the trade association, and sure enough, there were 2 competing footwear associations in Hong Kong, and they have their directory on the website, and I just started emailing them and calling them. And they were happy to tell me information about where they were building. Here's some of the websites. Hong Kong Trade Development Council, which is HKTDC. That's a good one. Global Sources is a good one. Of course, Alibaba is the best. Search for these websites I mentioned, HKTDC and Global Sources. They don't really have the purchasing. They don't have trade assurance, and you don't really buy product on there. They just link you to contact them. Searching for blogs and influencers, you'll be surprised what people are saying. You can find factories. Some of the unboxing reviews on YouTube, product reviews, they also have the reviewer has been contacted by many different factories. Usually they might say a few things about factory names. Just be aware of this. Review magazines, websites, blogs, they also mention factory names sometimes. So keep your eyes open for this. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing here for a minute and come back here and stop sharing. Good, I'm back. Okay, so take a break from the PowerPoint. So one additional subject so that is sourcing methods that are, I will say, Alibaba's online. Some of the websites are online. These tools are online, but you're no longer in the Alibaba ecosystem. So I call it offline. You're moving out of the trade assurance ecosystem. Again, a friendly reminder, if you're new to buying in Asia, stay in Alibaba in terms of the trade, the transaction. If you are getting some experience, some confidence, and you're ready to try, you still need to figure out how to do the payment. Our course does have Just One Dime course does have good advice about this. I'm going to share with you some of my experience on payment and some of the ways that I've done it in the past. If you can use, if you're scaling up and you're starting to buy good quantities, letter of credit is still the best, in my opinion. Most factories don't want to do letters of credit. But letters of credit are really good. Now, that's for another workshop, quite detailed. They're not as common unless you're buying a fairly large volume and dollar amount, but they're still solid. Why? Because you take the factory, you issue a letter of credit on it from a bank to the factory. So that factory knows that you have the money. It's in the bank. Then the factory makes the goods. They submit all the documents to the bank, and the bank looks at it and says, yeah, this is what the guy's buying. We release the money. So it's very clean, and it's managed by the bank. So letter of credit is great. I mention it. It's not common. You wouldn't do it for $10,000 transaction, but if you're getting up to big transactions, $100,000, $50,000, I would do letter of credit. It's a great way to do it. It does cost. There's a cost to it, but it's always worth it. Something that we mostly do in transactions within our Amazon quantities, we do a deposit and then the balance payment. One of the things I might mention in the balance payment is to make sure that you are also doing that in exchange for the documents, meaning the bill of lading. The bill of lading is the title for the goods. You need that bill of lading on the other side of the ocean or air to pick up the goods. Whoever has that has the title, the bill of lading, original bill of lading. So that original bill of lading is what you want. So when you pay 70% balance, or whatever the balance is, you want that document. Okay. So I'm going to jump into how to secure the deposit in a non-trade assurance environment. And then we'll go to questions. I see some good questions. So I'm going to share my screen here again. So, how to protect yourself. First of all, I'm giving you a disclaimer. This is what I do, and it has shown to work for me over many years. I've accumulated this knowledge and happy to pass it on. But this is, you can use something similar, and this is not a guarantee of any kind. You can't go to the bank or to the court and say, well, Alex told me. That's not going to fly. But this is information about a good way to protect your investment. The goal, just simply put, have the factory owner sign a personal guarantee that they will repay the deposit if they do not comply. It's that simple. There's a lot of words here, but that's what we're trying to get after. There are limitations to this. You do not have a company in China, most people. So bringing an action in a China court is difficult. You can do it, and we do put it wording in the documentation, but keep in mind that you're a foreigner and you're probably not going to be flying to Shenzhen to file the court documents, but you can, and there are ways of doing it, and I'll mention that in a minute. So the first two steps: get a copy of the factory business registration and get a copy of the owner's identification. This is very standard. If factory people start telling you, no, I can't get it, move on. Something's wrong. There might be a reason why you can't get it, because it may not be a kosher deal. Then once you get it, you enter this information, or the factory enters it too, into 3 documents. One I call a letter of guarantee, which means that the person or the owner is responsible. It identifies the owner. The next document is a TT contract, telegraphic transfer wire contract. and it outlines how much money and what you are buying and from whom. Third is a statement. This connects the supplier to the bank account. So what do these look like? I'll show you. So here's a letter of guarantee. It's really basic stuff. You get the person's Chinese name, their contact information, the Chinese factory name, and the business registration. You're getting all of this from those two documents, the business registration and the personal ID of the person that owns the factory or the company. Then you go through, this is information you would enter. I highlight one part here that's important. They will be liable for all damages, penalties, and compensation, which causes from breaching the purchase order. Okay, the rest of it you can read on your own time. Then we move into the next is TT contract. So this can be for deposit. This can be for the final payment. Those two things. And what I'm showing you here is you're just entering in how much money you're going to deposit and what that deposit applies to. I like to say refer to pro forma invoice and write down the pro forma invoice number, and I usually attach it. Delivery date. When are the goods going to be delivered? I bet your factories are late often, and this puts them on notice. You're going to request a deposit refund if they are X number of days late. So rolling down here, you can read most of this at another time. But company understands time is of the essence for this PO, and buyer shall have the right to cancel this PO should company delay in delivery for more than 14 days. You can extend it. It doesn't have to be 14 days. But essentially what you're saying is, if you're not going to deliver, give me my money back. And it gives it puts a date. And I've used this. It works. And lastly, statement. This is connecting the company, whoever the company is. This was a term for deposit, right? We talked about that in the last document. To a bank account. So, for example, I saw yesterday on our Facebook group, somebody was talking about whether or not they should pay to someone's personal account. In 99% of the time, you should never do that. If for whatever reason they decided they wanted to legally assign the payment to someone else and the company boss signed it and chopped it and authorized it and you verified it, then I could be okay. Sometimes they have, the company you're working with does not have an export license, and therefore they are using another company to do the import and export. So that would be where they're assigning another company. In this case, this document is vital because you're paying somebody that's not connected. So therefore, you need to legally connect them. Why? Because, I'll get back on here. Stop. Okay, I'm back. So why? Because think about it in terms of if you are the judge in court and you say, oh, I paid. And the factory says, well, you paid this company. You didn't pay us. They're the import-export company. They never gave us the money. Well, you need to have everything connected. Or they say, oh, yeah, well, you paid for another shipment. You didn't pay for this shipment. That's why all these documents are on. Also, is the boss's name on the business registration certificate? No, then who is the boss? How are they authorized to even give you this document? So what I'm getting at here is this is a logic. You can come at it different ways. You can be flexible in changing it. They say, oh yeah, I'm willing to do this, but I don't want a personal guarantee. They might say that. At least your eyes open. At least you've done the full vet to vet anyone that is making sure that the payment you're making is going to the right company, the right person. There have been many cases that company employees, because it's pretty easy to get a job in China, and they can just move to another city. There have been many cases where a big number was going to be deposited or paid, and the employee said was ready to leave the company, and they say, put it in my personal bank account. Or they change the bank. All of a sudden, the company changes the bank account. Red flag. Call the bank. Ask the bank, do you have this account? Doesn't matter if the bank's in Shanghai. You have a phone. The bank has a phone. Call them and ask them, do you have this bank account for this company? Because you really have to check these things. Any financial controller will always check this when a bank has been changed in China. It's very important. Okay, enough said on that point. I want to show you, lastly, we'll do questions here in a minute. I want to show you, last thing I'll show, just a filled out form that's done. It's been filled out. Okay, so here's what a business registration looks like. I've blacked out, but these are the chops. You need these fresh chops, real live ones. Here's somebody's ID. Really, they sent you a picture of their ID. I'm crossing out some of the information, her personal information. She's the boss of this company. Excuse me. Here's the statement linking the bank account. This was for a balance payment, and their bank account was Ping An Bank. Here's terms for balance payment or terms for deposit. I'm outlining how much I'm going to pay them and what I'm paying for, when it was delivered, and letter of guarantee. Again, it's exactly that wording. They will be irrevocably, fully, jointly, severally liable for all damages, penalties, and compensation if they don't fulfill the PO. So this is all really important. So there it is. Stop sharing. Okay, good. So that is a brief rundown on some other methods of sourcing. Import Genius is a good one. There might be a few other services out there that provide that type of database. I think Panjiva is one. There might, if somebody finds a free one, please put it in our Facebook group, because I'd love to get a free account again. The Import Genius is $99 a month. Is way too high, in my opinion. But it is a great resource, and even using it, the free version, you can still get good info out of it. And then you need to come up with a method to make payments that you feel secure about and do proper vetting. And I will note that much of what is in my documentation that I've used is in good advice that you find. And I know some of our leaders in our group have posted in our Facebook group about how to vet the factory and check the factory. So this is really good information for you. So jumping to some questions, I'll just jump up here and grab a few. So I've got Which Asian trade fair do you recommend attending? Okay, I did answer that. I think that was probably asked before, probably before I posted that. Again, Canton Fair is excellent. Some of the Hong Kong fairs are good, HKTDC, and I would encourage you to Google specific fairs. There's some good ones in Shanghai and other cities. And do the research to know that there's more than 10 booths. Make sure there's a lot of people going, otherwise it's not worth your time. Where can we get a copy of the NDA agreement? I can put it on our Facebook group. How often, DJ Martin asks, how often do the companies fail to sign the NDA? And do you choose not to use them if they refuse? It's not really an issue of fail. It's usually that I haven't, it takes a little time for them to print it, read it. It's in another language for them. It's in English. Get their boss to sign it. So you got to tell them, hey, I'm really interested in doing business. This is who I am. I really want to tell you about what I'm doing to keep my product different so you can make samples. But you can't share this with anybody else and you can't use it yourself. So this is mine. And so once you talk them up, I mean, you have to sell in, right? You have to, your salesperson to some extent, you have to convince them. And so, but I would say 95% will sign it. It's only 3 pages. Usually, honestly, it's so standard they don't even read it. They just sign it. How useful is it? It's hard. It's hard to enforce, but at least you've put them on notice that they have to be aware you're serious. And you might be able to use it. I have not seen it filed with respect to Amazon. I've seen it used between companies, but I bet it would have some impact. If it was the name of a supplier that had the same brand, and you sent it in and said, it might have some impact. Certainly it would have an impact with the lawyer. Lastly, would you be happy to share those templates? Yeah, I'm no problem. I can put them on Facebook. Feel free to use them and modify them as you please. I can put them on there in our Facebook group in the next 24 hours. Again, the really important thing that you do is you modify them to suit, and that this is not a guarantee that somebody's going to pay you or that they're going to give you the goods. You have to follow all of the steps. Don't just do one of them. And think it through. Ask questions if you don't understand them. If you need specific coaching on that, I know a lot about it. I can coach on that one-to-one. Other coaches know about this too. So this is a tried and true method. I'm just checking here. I don't see any other questions. We are coming up here on an hour. So I think that's it. Thank you very much for coming. I do hope you try finding your competitors' factories. I've done it many, many times. It's a really good way to source. It helps you get out of the Alibaba bubble and get more into the mainline big factories. As you grow your business, you need to reduce the cost of goods. Getting into the bigger factories is how you do that. Have a good day. Bye-bye.